Hey, this is Craig, and we're taking a look at the Pantech Flex. Pantech has always been a big name when it comes to budget devices, and while the Flex fits in that category, it packs quite a punch. It's available now on AT&T, and it costs only $20 with a 2-year contract. It has a Snapdragon S4 dual-core processor clocked at 1.5 GHz, which is actually the same chip that's in the Galaxy S3 and the Nokia Lumia 920. It's also got 1 gig of RAM and 8 gigabytes of internal storage. The screen is a 4.3-inch Super AMOLED QHD display, and it offers great touch response and decent viewing angles. However, text and smaller icons appear slightly blurry due to its Pentile matrix technology, but like most Super AMOLED displays, the screen features deep blacks and great color saturation. The Pantech Flex is incredibly thin, and while most of the phone is made of plastic, its build quality feels really robust. However, the design is kind of quirky. The back has weird indentations, and part of the battery cover is a lighter shade of gray than the rest, which doesn't really serve a huge function from what I've noticed. The biggest negative of the phone's design is the placement of the micro USB port in the power button. The power button is on the side in the middle, with the micro USB port a little further up. I've discovered that holding the phone will leave your thumb covering up the micro USB port, so that's essentially where the power button should be. And I'm not really sure why Pantech couldn't have just put the micro USB port on the bottom where it should belong. As far as the software, the Flex runs Android 4.0 Ice Cream Sandwich. One of the unique aspects of this device is that there are two different user interface modes. There's the traditional Android UI that we all know and love, and then there's what Pantech calls Easy Experience mode. Easy Experience essentially gives you an extremely user-friendly interface if you're not too familiar with the traditional Android experience. It gives you one home screen that's very easy to navigate, and it gives you quick access to all the essential features and apps, like the dialer, camera, and web browser. Overall, I really like this simpler interface. Even for Android experts, the Easy Experience can be a nice break from the traditional Android UI. The Flex's camera is probably one of the weaker areas of the phone's software. It has an 8 megapixel sensor, but as with many budget smartphones, the camera lacks a lot of quality, and there are a surprisingly low number of settings that can be changed around. However, HDR mode does a fairly decent job, and outdoor photos look pretty good as well. But don't expect the camera to be good enough to replace your dedicated shooter. Benchmarks of the Flex prove that the phone can keep up with top-tier devices like the HTC One X and Samsung's Galaxy Nexus. Obviously, that's because of the S4 that's inside of the Flex. Navigating through the phone's UI is pretty flawless as far as performance, and animations and transitions are quite smooth. Swiping to another home screen takes a little longer than most other phones, but it's not from the lack of smoothness. It just seems that Pantech just made it this way. The battery life of the Flex is average and nothing spectacular. Heavy usage didn't take too much of a toll, but it seems leaving the phone on overnight drains the battery significantly. I noticed when I woke up the next morning that the battery life fell by about half, which was obviously surprising. If you decide to grab this phone, you'll definitely want to make sure you turn it off before heading to bed if you want it to last throughout the morning. However, I still got around a full 24 hours for moderate usage. Overall, the Flex packs quite a punch performance-wise, especially for only $20, but the design of the phone is extremely weird and kind of disappointing. However, the two different user experience modes definitely makes the Flex a unique option for both novices and experts who are on a budget.
Hey guys, John V here from Phone Arena. Right now you're watching our in-depth video review of the LG Escape for AT&T. It's available right now. You can pick it up for $50, 2-year contract. So it's super affordable and features things like a 4.3-inch QHD IPS display. You get a dual-core processor with 1 gigabyte of RAM and also packs 4G LTE connectivity, so you get fast data speeds with this guy. So obviously you get a lot of value for the money, but let's hope its performance can be equally as stellar as well. Looking over the handset's design, we gotta say it's rather boring. It just somewhat bland. It employs some of the distinct design elements we've seen used on other LG smartphones. In fact, it's basically a larger size of the LG Lucid over on Verizon Wireless. It's constructed out of plastic all around. It feels a little bit hollow, and it does attract a lot of fingerprints and smudges just because of its glossy looks. Now for an entry-level model, we're happy to see it sporting a large display. It's a 4.3-inch QHD IPS LCD display, so it features a resolution of 540 by 960 pixels, so it has some really nice looking details. We're able to make out fine text in the web browser, no problems at all. But unfortunately though, it is a low quality display, meaning it has some poor viewing angles, washed out colors, and just a low brightness output, so it's pretty much difficult to use it in direct sunlight. Even though it's an ice cream sandwich device, the LG Escape still features the trio of capacitive Android buttons. They're spaced far away from one another to reduce any accidental presses. Meanwhile, above the screen, we find its earpiece, your front-facing 1.3 megapixel camera, a proximity sensor. It's worth noting that it lacks a light sensor, so there is no automatic brightness setting with the display. Towards the left edge of the phone, we have its volume control. It's raised and has a tactile response. While on the right, we also find a dedicated power button. It's also raised and has a good distinctive feel. On the bottom edge, there's the micro USB port. And finally on top, there's just the 3.5mm headset jack and a noise cancellation mic. Flipping it over to the rear, the LG Escape features a 5-megapixel autofocus camera, the ability to shoot 1080p videos. It's lacking a flash though. Towards the bottom here, you have 2 notches for its internal speaker. And finally, prying off the rear cover grants us access to its 2150 mAh battery, the micro SIM slot, and a micro SD card slot. Interestingly enough, this is the first AT&T LG device that we're seeing with the latest version of the LG Optimus skin running top of Android 4.0 Ice Cream Sandwich. So as far as what's new, you can tell some of the widgets a little bit different, and it also has these cool 3D transition effects as we're moving about the home screen. But beyond that, nothing really spectacular about it. It's basic functionality. It's not as comprehensive compared to some of the other customized experiences out there, but nevertheless, seeing that it is a basic Android smartphone, we're kind of comforted by the fact that it has all the foundational aspects of the core Android experience that we want to find. Don't be fooled by the handset's price just because within its body it's packing a formidable processor. In fact, it's a dual-core 1.2 GHz Qualcomm Snapdragon S4 processor with 1 GB of RAM. As you can tell here, navigating through the home screen with the 3D transition effects and a live wallpaper in place, it's moving exceptionally fast, and generally speaking, it's pretty quick with most of its operations. It's very rare that it actually lags or slow down. You can tell there's a lot of fluidity with its execution, and overall, we're very happy with its performance. Even though we're presented with a large display, it's still a little bit challenging to type up messages with its on-screen keyboard, just because with the layout here, it's a little bit on the cramped side, so whether you're using the LG keyboard here or the stock option, we're still kind of held back with our rate of input, but luckily it has a nice responsive feel. Combining its processing power and its 4G LTE connectivity, it delivers one exceptional web browsing experience that's on the same level as some of the high-end devices out there in the market. So not only do pages load up in a good amount of time, but on top of that, it has some really slick and smooth navigational controls, so pinch gestures and kinetic scrolling are pretty much effortless. Aside from the usual Google Play Music application, you also have the LG Optimus Music Player as well. It's a little bit on the conventional side with its presentation, nothing really spiffy about it. As far as audio quality, it's very strong with its volume output, but there's a hand restraint at the loudest volume setting. Luckily, with the Google Play Music application, you could actually fine-tune its audio quality by selecting an equalizer setting. So yeah, the LG Escape is able to play high-definition videos with no problems at all, like the one we have here, which is encoded in DivX 1920 by 1080 resolution. You can tell moving very swiftly, no slowdown or lag, but unfortunately, with its low-quality display, colors tend to wash out and doesn't make for the most optimum experience. So with the handset's 5-megapixel autofocus camera, it's able to produce some pleasant-looking shots outdoors with plenty of sun, though colors can tend to have a little bit of a greenish-bluish hue, coming off a little bit on the cooler side. Indoors, under low-lighting situations, though, it's pretty much ineffective just because it produces some soft details, a lot of graininess, also some noise, and on top of that, it lacks a flash. On one hand, we're able to accept its still image quality, but with its 1080p video recording, it's pretty much forgettable, even though it does shoot at 30 frames per second very smoothly and also has some clear audio recording. We can't accept its soft details, its underexposed looks, and also heavy artifacting when you're panning very quickly, so it's far from being high definition. Chatterboxes will surely appreciate the LG Escape and its call quality just because it's superb in many aspects. For example, the earpiece produces some very strong volume tones, so we're able to hear our callers, and on top of that, voices are distinct and clear on both ends of the line. However, though, when we switch to using the speakerphone, it tends to have just a little bit of muffling going on. Signal strength doesn't appear to be an issue with the handset just because in our time using, we didn't see any major fluctuations, nor did we see any dropped phone calls. Additionally, we're very impressed with its battery life. It packs a 2150 milliamp hour battery, a little bit larger than most basic entry-level models out there, and we're able to get by 2 solid days with normal usage with HSPA Plus connection. But of course, if you're on LTE, you can expect that figure to drop tremendously. Naturally, our expectations were raised after checking out the Pantech Flex just because it raised the bar for many of the entry-level devices out there. With the LG Escape, it's a decent offering. It packs a lot of value for the money for $50. It's a well-rounded device with a good performance. It's very fast. You get 4G LTE connectivity, a large display, but its design is a little bit on the conventional side, and it looks to be rather boring compared to the Pantech Flex. But nevertheless, it's still a decent enough handset to check out if you're in the market for an entry-level model. So if you'd like to learn more about the LG Escape, guys, you could check out our website, phonearena.com. This is John V. Thanks for watching.